Hey guys, so there's this one story, and it's probably the only story that I remember from the high school philosophy class that I found really interesting and actually really related to developing great business ideas. So this story comes from, or this fable comes from Socrates. So Socrates was walking down the street one day, and a man approaches him, and he's like, "Hey, Socrates, I heard this story that I have to tell you, from a friend of yours that said." And then the Socrates cuts him off. Is like, "Hey, first, before you tell me the story, have you run it through the test of free strainers?" And he's like, "What is the test of free strainers?" It's like Socrates is like, "Well, let's try it out." So Socrates, goes and asks this man three different questions. So first, and it's like, these strainers, it's like, imagine you have a lot of dirt going through the strainers, one strainer, two strainer, three strainers to really like refine the dirt and have like, the best thing come out of it. Like let's say if you wanted to get gold out of it, you'd probably use strainers to, like separate the gold from the dirt, which is exactly what Socrates was trying to do. So he's like, okay, here are these three strainers. First of all, he asked the man, so, hey, is this story that you're about to tell me true? And the guy says, well, not necessary. And then, Socrates is like, well, is this story good or useful? And he's like, well, not really. And then the Socrates asks the first question, which is, is this story necessary to tell it to me? And, the other guy is like, no, it's not necessary. And then the Socrates says, well, if the story that you're about to tell me isn't true, isn't good, or isn't necessary, then let's just forget about it and don't bother with it. So this is a story that always stuck with me because it does, give us a good idea of like, not talking about rumors and things like that are not true, they're not useful, they're not good, they're not necessary to tell to other people, and they don't really benefit anyone, which is why I like that story. But then I also realized that this process of, taking ideas through these different strainers is very similar to how I approach finding profitable business ideas. So whenever I have a profitable business idea, I run it through three of my own strainers. And the first thing that I always ask myself is, am I excited to work on this business idea? If I'm not excited about working on this business idea, I don't work on it, because if I'm not excited, that means that I'm just not going to put in the work. I'm not going to follow through with it. I'm not going to be happy to talk about it to other people. I'm not going to be willing to do the work to actually make it happen. So the first trainer is like, is this business idea actually something that's exciting to me? The second thing is, am I good at this business idea? Do I have the expertise built that I need to teach this idea comfortably to other people? So if I were to teach something like social skills to other people, I wouldn't think like, even if I was excited about it, even if there was, let's say, demand for it, I wouldn't feel like I'm the top expert on social skills, and I would have all of these imposter syndrome coming in, to me every single day whenever I try to create content or teach this idea or charge for it and so on and so on. So to avoid that problem, I would just be like, hey, if this idea is something that I'm not good at yet, then maybe in the future I'll pursue it when I get better at it. But right now, it probably doesn't make the most sense. So the second strainer is like, am I good at this? Am I an expert at this? Should I teach this to other people? And the third thing I always try to test for, the third strainer that I like to use is there demand for this idea? So is this something that I just think is interesting, or is there actually a big burning pain for people that they want to solve, related to this idea? Or is there, a reason why they would pay for it? And with this third question, like, is there demand for this business idea? That's where usually the market validation comes in. That's where you have to test your ideas in the world and see how people actually react to them. It's pretty hard to actually determine whether it's a good idea or not, just in a vacuum by doing, a quick Google search or something like that. I found that the best way to actually go test your ideas out into the world, whether it's by creating content, whether it's you sharing your idea with actual real people that would be interested in it, whether it's trying to get your first paying customers, that's always the third thing that you should do before pursuing a business idea, or, in the early stages of pursuing a business idea. If you are excited about it, if you are good at it, the first step is to always test whether there's demand for it. So that's how I like to look at business ideas. And if you have this big list of business ideas that you've come up with in the past, and you can't decide like which of the ideas to pursue, the best thing that you can do is just to run it through these three strainers. Which ideas am I excited about? Okay, leave those ideas, leave the others for some other time. which of these ideas am I good at? And you'll end up with a smaller list of ideas. And then which of these ideas is there demand for? And you'll end up with an even smaller list of ideas. Now, if you end up with like 3 ideas that you're equally, like you're excited about them, there's demand for them, and you're good at them, I usually just like to pick the business idea that I'm most excited about right now, because that makes it the most likely that I'll actually follow through with it. So that's how I approach choosing one of the, profitable business ideas and narrowing down different business ideas. And I think it's just a very similar process to the Socrates thinking. So if you found this useful, if you found this story interesting, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.